Contenders. It's the heart and soul of our sport.
Where all our heroes start on their path to greatness.
What is Contenders about, you might ask?
It's about these little shining moments
where these players strive to become who they're truly meant to be.
They get better, better, and better.
Twisted Minds, currently ahead of everybody.
Whisper showing why they're number one.
That is a huge shift of momentum.
Oh my God, Squid. What on earth? How did Saints even manage to bring that one back?
Genuinely one of the best Baras in the entire world.
It all stems from this moment right here.
No way, Quandop!
I love this when the fight is dire, when they must make a play.
Nothing short of magnificent.
LH Cloudy, two-man self-destruct! I never thought I'd see that in my life.
Oh my god, this meta's great. There's so much diversity.
They're not going down without fights. A big throw! The Lucio hits the ground! Another sound barrier finally lands from Kellex. The Blizzard out. It's brought 3 kills from Twisted Minds. XR desperately contesting. Just wrestle control of the map. Nobody's feeling safe.
The best storylines that we have in Contenders are these teams that come in and they surprise as things go on.
For us, weeks and weeks of play have led to this moment.
But for these players,
it's more than that.
It's everything they are and everything they want to be.
The Overwatch Contenders Spring Series playoffs continue right now.
Hey, howdy, and welcome back, everybody. By God, here, it feels good to say, to North American Contenders. It's been a long break, a little bit of tenure we've ordered over the past few weeks, but that's no problem. We've got some fantastic games that we've been loading up for you, and they've been well earned at that. A lot of teams duking it out, but today they're starting up off the top with Timeless versus Redbirds. Here, how are you feeling considering that you swapped your entire sleep schedule about 3 times within the past 4 days to cast APAC for Owl, and then secondly, that you have to come off that and raise the energy for this match?
Well, I gotta say, I'm pretty excited about this, Door, because, well, first of all, both of us have been doing this, but second of all...
It's testing your metal more than mine is.
But I will say, if there's one way to get me back into being, like, you know, in the swing of things, we've got the energy coming back, it's gonna be this matchup, Timeless versus Redbirds. Excited about what's to come after that as well, but let's take a quick look at the standings, just a quick little introduction into how we arrived at this stage into the bracket, getting ready to open things up. Obviously, Wisp, Saints finished things up at the top. Trick Room right behind Saints, though. And then after that, it was a pretty... I mean, there was a fall off there after the top 3 where Timeless and Redbirds there reside.
And I think that's what makes this such an interesting match. We have basically the 2 gatekeepers of the upper NA Contenders region playing against each other for a shot at the big dogs today. And it makes it not only an important match, but closer in more ways than one. But we should talk about the bracket before we get into this match in particular, because some of those teams have quote-unquote easier runs. But seeing as it's been 2 weeks since we last saw these teams play... I'm not sure if anything's for certain, especially having watched, plenty of the Overwatch League in that time. The meta's had a lot of time to develop, and so teams are... It's going to be a scattershot trying to predict these games.
Yeah, and of course, we had EMEA earlier today as well, and there were some great games there, but moreover, I think it's been interesting to see, again, like you said, there's a pretty dynamic meta here that we have right now, and I would say there's a lot of opportunity for some of these teams to really kind of introduce something interesting into the mix. We did see things like Reinhardt, we saw the Ramatra, we've seen Winston, we've seen Wrecking Ball. I mean, there are so many different ways to build in this meta, including Junker Queen, and we saw Zarya. I mean, you basically saw everything already. I expect to see more of the same here in NA.
Yeah, and the percentages have only kind of evened out the further on into the meta we've gotten. If Overwatch League is anything to show, if that's trickled down, who knows what's going to happen. But I think as far as specific matchups for the day go, I do have my eye a little bit on Trick Room 03. I think 03 Splash is maybe better than I think a lot of people gave them credit for. They're like lurking down there and have made some pretty big impactful wins. But in the meantime, we've got our matchup of the day for this first round here. Let's zoom on in at Timeless up against Redbirds. Like I said, 2 teams kind of blocking the upper echelon in terms of not just where they sit records-wise, but also blocking each other, because they're as close as you can get on basically every single margin imaginable. Not only is their map differential 1 different, with Redbirds coming in with 1 less map and Timeless in that wins column. But then on top of that, you look all the way back to week 2 when they played each other. 5 maps with Timeless taking a win. Granted, that was like over a month ago. I think it was like April 24th that was. So that's hardly a metric at all. And then their most recent comparison in schedule was both of them went up against 0-3 Blast. Redbirds took it 3-2. Timeless lost it 2-3. And so like there's a small difference, if any. It's so hard to call it between these two. And then you look at the strength of rosters for each of them, and it doesn't get any easier.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to unpack with both of these teams. I mean, obviously, we know what Kuffa brings to the table, especially as someone who is... I mean, we've talked about his versatility, but I think something that I've been really excited about, and I think everyone's really excited about when we talk about Kuffa, is that Winston. Really excited to see perhaps some more of that here today. But Wub and Doomed have really been exceptional. Cal, Greed, rounding out the support line for this team as well. Cal, Kuffa... I mean, longtime friends at this point, spending time in Australia together. But overall, this is still an incredible team. One that really hit their stride, I think, a little bit later into, the start of this year. And we're seeing them, I think, get their feet underneath them and really hit the ground running.
I mean, for me, the big thing Timeless is trying to do is break free of that kind of bodyguard, that keeper of the upper echelon moniker that they've had since they originated. They've always had incredible rosters, but they've struggled to get to that 1-2 position. If they want to do that, they gotta go up against this Redbirds squad, which have had a very different run of things. Timeless has kind of always been there. They've been very solid all season. It feels like they've done exactly what you want them to, finding big wins and having a little bit of trouble against the upper teams. Redbirds, who knows what happened with them? Start of the season came, they lost a bunch, and then they got better, and they got better, and they got better. And my question is, with 2 more weeks to continue practicing, have they kept getting better after that? Are they still scaling? Like, when does it stop with this team?
Yeah, I definitely have a lot to say about this, and we're probably going to spend some time on this before we actually, dive into all the nitty gritty about the, once we get into the map and stuff. But just to kind of highlight the overall, picture about Redbirds. Obviously, we know what Gig brings to the table, but then of course, incorporating Tap, having more time to bring him in and integrate him into their system. Vision has been a godsend for this team, a team that continuously sees a lot of their players moving up into the Overwatch League. Vision has come in and just been an absolute, pinnacle of what NA potential still has in terms of the DPS role in specific.
Yeah, and I think while he adds a lot to the matchup in terms of things you need to look out for as pop-off potential goes, I think we glanced over Gig a little bit too much, and not to mention a player that we haven't even mentioned in Moving Fish, who has been playing really, really informed lately. And I think I want to zoom in a little bit on the tank matchup, because I think it sets the stage for kind of what we're looking for today. On one hand, Kuffa and Clear. On the other hand, Gig and Moving Fish. And I think those make up 2 very, very, very different tank lines in terms of playstyle. Yes, Gig and Kuffa are both particularly solid, but each of them kind of finding home on different picks than you might think. And then you look over at Clear and Moving Fish, and Moving Fish's off-tank hero pool operates a little bit differently than Clear's does. And so, while yes, both off-tank, main-tank duos with their respective teams, they both fill different roles. And I think for us, that means we get a lot of fun, because it means likely less mirror matches.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to... even if we get those mirror matches, I am excited to see how those are going to pan out. But... even if we get away from those, which I think is a little bit likely here, given what these two teams like to do, I would say the one thing that I would expect to see in terms of
Winston.
The Winston and even the Ramatra are the 2 things I would say would probably be the most prolific between both of these 2 teams. But of course, before we dive in, chat predictions, it's time right now. Timeless 1, Redbirds 2. Put them in the chat. We need to know what you guys think, what you guys expect for this matchup, and we'll see if you're right down the line. But
chat, you have my permission to go 50-50 this time.
It doesn't get any harder here. Yeah, right out of the gate here, I think to your point earlier that you made about Redbirds, there's a couple things that I think we need to dissect really quick. Redbirds came in off the back of a long streak of collegiate matches that were on a different meta. They came in, they even talked about the fact that they were just not prepared for this meta, for this patch specifically. They were on a different patch, just a day, I believe, prior to their first Contenders group stage matchup. So it took some time to figure things out. And I think given this extra even 2 weeks now just to, develop their strategies, develop everything that they need to, and then also bring Tap in closer to the team. You see him coming in for a map 1 right now, should have a profound effect for Redbirds. I anticipate that they're going to look better now than they did in the group stage.
There's any map for them to look good on. It is this Control Center is where we started out, giving Gig the opportunity to start the series on his signature Reinhardt, something he's been itching to play every single time we get the opportunity to talk to him. And Redbirds have kind of bounced between playing it and not right now. It's not the Reinhardt we need to keep our eyes on. Tap's found a very influential pick onto the likes of Doom. Timeless look to disengage, but they're not fully committing to that idea. Just trying to hold the edge of the point and buy time, not allowing that cap to go over to Redbirds before the May gets back. But I think they're realizing very quickly that time is a limiting factor for them. So much so that when Kuppa tries to step forward, the rest of the team pulls back, and that disconnect allows a couple of picks to fall through.
You can see Redbirds putting a ton of emphasis on maintaining pressure onto Kuppa, but on top of that, Vision. I mean, we've already talked about him a little bit coming into this series, but I think we're going to have to spend a lot more time on him. He gets that off angle on the Hanzo. That's going to be the main threat for Redbirds, and Timeless is going to have to figure out a way to deal with that off angle that you can see Vision again holding on that left side.
And there's no answer on Timeless's side. I'm going to be honest, I really don't like this Sojourn pick. It doesn't farm the Reinhardt the same way it does on this Ram. Already, Kuppa charged through. Gig, though, ate a ton of damage. Just about finishing off the fight now for Timeless. They are able to, and they're going to come up on ult in the meantime.
Yeah, big pick there for Timeless. I mean, just finding Gig. Gig got pretty aggressive. They saw the Dragon Strike, and they were like, you know what? We have the advantage. Let's go ahead and try to see what we can get with it. Fortunately, Timeless was very ready for it, and now they get the flip. 47% captured by Redbirds, but I think fortunate for Redbirds that they didn't have to spend a whole lot to take that L, right? I mean, it was really just the Dragon Strike, but Timeless with their fight win, and also with this kiting that they're doing right now, they are getting so much value for their economy, and that's going to be huge as we see these two teams clash yet again.
Economy comes to fruition, popping the Amp Matrix nice and early in the fight. Timeless now look to reposition, aggressing into the mini hallway. Gig can't block all this damage, but Redbirds are still positioned quite well for avoiding most of it. Application Matrix comes out, now it's their turn to strike for Timeless. Not quite respecting the sight lines. Gig takes all that space, forces out an ice block, pulling a lot of abilities, pushing them backwards into the Blizzard. This is certainly a lot better for Redbirds at the given moment. A fantastic Immortality Field as well from Renko. Makes absolutely sure of it. Timeless never really looked like they stood a chance in this fight.
I mean, the delay that they got as well on that sound barrier was huge. They were able to basically time out Greed's sound barrier, and Redbirds from Deco were able to get it so much later. They got a ton of value out of it. Also from the Blizzard that we saw come in from Tap. Redbirds just looked so good in that last fight. Now, though, transitioning to the next one, they're going to have to deal with that Annihilation. And I think the big key here is for Gig to step up, really lay down some heat with some control, shatter, pen, whatever it needs to be, but Kuppa needs to be taken out of the equation.
Yeah, I mean, I've been really torn between the Shatter and the Annihilation, which is better in this matchup a lot of the time. I've been swayed a little bit more towards the Annihilation side lately, but the Shatter, it feels so solid. It's impossible to block. What do you do about this, right? There's no wall available to block it. Annihilation's going to give a new lease on life to the Timeless squad, but you're going to need a big play from that Ramatra, one that it just isn't available to Kuppa the second Gig pops up the shield.
Still have to deal with Wub in the backline too. Could see a couple of headshots really turn this fight around, but now Cal goes out, healing and goes with him. Greed really just the only person to stabilize things, then he goes down as well.
I mean, the fortunate thing for Timeless is in all this, Redbirds have had control. Makes it tough to run this one back, but they do regain control. First point likely going over their way. Doom can try and stagger this one out. In fact, does manage to get a brig back from the wings. Lucio here as well. Kuppa's a long way away, though, here, because I'm not sure about this.
Yeah, I mean, Kuppa can get back quick with the Doom Fist, but I don't know.
Not that
I mean,
quick.
they just aren't going to have like a concerted effort here. And just like that, Redbirds are indeed going to be taking the first round here. And off the back of, I mean, obviously a very strong opening neutral fight for them where we saw them get that pick. I mean, other than that one hiccup where we saw Gig go a little aggressive off of that early Dragon Strike pull from Vision, and then get caught early in that fight. I mean, outside of that, Redbirds looked phenomenal. I mean, they were very efficient about their ults. They were really good about understanding what their win conditions are, getting vision off on those off angles where Timeless can't really contest him. I expect Timeless to make some big changes here, and it looks like they are.
Coming in on the Junker Queen composition, doomed on a Pharah as well. They look to punish the lack of hit scan on Redbird's side. Granted, Vision's aim isn't usually limited by the third dimension. See how it works. You haven't seen this one in quite some time, though. Timeless wouldn't look towards this composition 2 weeks ago to play this map.
That wouldn't be my expectation, but now all of a sudden it starts to make some sense. Vision, though, takes down Wub. That's a big opener already for Redbirds.
Now Redbirds just look to insulate on the point, knowing that a lot of that damage is gone. Timeless just can't sustain into this. Doom can do some work poking away from the sidelines, but point ultimately falls to the Redbirds.
Yeah, I mean, effectively just 2 players killed by just Vision. I mean, there's a little bit of pressure exerted by Tap, but other than and Ranko, but other than that, it's really just been the Vision show early on in round 2. Now finally Ranko goes down, so Gig getting stabilized, not as likely anymore.
Small overextension on the point leads to a massive opening. That's all Timeless needed to collapse on. Well, that towards a few ultimates as well, but this one's going to remain in neutral territory once it's capped.
Once again, Redbirds right after the neutral fight, getting caught off by overextending. I mean, this is exactly what we saw in round number 1. It feels like they didn't learn from that error just yet, but we see some adjustments being made here, and here's the first entry into the Winston contest. Gig going to be punching his ticket in first. Vision, Tap, of course, making swaps as well. Echo, Tracer. This is a full comp swap for Redbirds, diving in, trying to close the gap against Timeless.
And they lost a not insignificant amount of ultimate charge in that swap. The loss is lessened in recent patches, but it's still not easy to take. Cuff with an open on Renko, though. The one from Doomed really opens the floodgates to everyone else to go down. Redbirds honestly just looked a little disconnected in that engagement, all due to the fact that Cuffle was peeling away those members one by one.
And that's something that Kuffa is going to be able to do very well on this Junker Queen too, right? I mean, this is obviously not the patch that everybody is aware of, right? This is a little different, but still Junker Queen very strong, has the Rampage available now as well, could help out big time in terms of adding some more sustains through those bleed heals. And you see Timeless ready to go, getting closer for that EMP. Having Greed's ult there is going to also help them with the sustain, and that's what they're looking to do. Mitigate pressure, sustain.
Not to mention the fact that Redbirds still just don't have ultimates. I mean, we are, what, 2 minutes into this? And Tap's finally coming up on a pulse bomb? It's piecemeal. They're working with absolutely nothing, and the supports have not been able to build up any charge because everyone who's dying is dying without getting healed. This is passive charge support ultimates. Look at this.
Yeah, definitely a dismal situation here for Redbirds. I mean, once they do finally get some of those ults online, I think obviously their chances skyrocket in terms of being able to flip this point and even win a team fight, but they still have to deal with this EMP, and that's going to be a tough task.
Oh, I love the focus on Deco too. Honestly, you focus down the Lucio assuming that he's got a sound barrier there should that timer run out, but it wouldn't have even happened if he did get out of that sticky situation. Timeless run through this one with the help of all those ultimates, and I mean, make map 2 look like a piece of cake.
And it's funny too. I mean, it feels like very much a back and forth at this stage, but not in the way that you would expect, where it goes back and forth on actual, you know, just straight up rounds. This one has felt more like in round 1, Redbirds very much took that one handily, and now Timeless in round 2. Basically, it feels like off of just that comp kind of won this one, and then just the execution, obviously, of that composition as well. Redbirds just could not find a way in. And now when you go over to Night Market, there's still opportunity here for Timeless to kind of recapture some of the glory that they gained, the momentum that they gathered from this composition here in this map as well. And it looks like they are going to be running at least a version of it. Doomed back onto the Pharah. Redbirds going back over to the Rush, actually, with the Reinhardt.
And I like this. I mean, I always talk about Night Market really being where you see the true identity of a team, right? Because the options are so wide between Rush and Dive. And this really goes to show what I was talking about earlier between Gig and Kuffa, right? Where their preferences lie for those two. That being said, Gig's not going to be much of a factor if the Pharah is the difficulty that Redbirds have contending with. Doomed already beginning to work those side angles. Kuffa alongside. He's got to be careful about his position here because outside the points is not territory that belongs to the Redbirds. For them, it's inside. They need to insulate. They need to keep those health bars up and focus on staying alive. In the face of Doomed, though, there is simply no harder task.
Doomed is exactly what Redbirds seems to be right now, man. I mean, they catch themselves in a
Do I hear
great
5?
spot. Oh, he might be able to get it. They
Oh,
didn't
come on,
give it.
Cal.
They didn't give it. They didn't give it, man. That's criminal. Give the man the 5K. I mean, Doomed right now at almost 90% towards that first barrage off of that one fight. I mean, uncontested. You can see that Redbirds was clearly, I mean, there's a game plan, there was a strategy very much enacted by Redbirds that they just needed to push forward, leave that Pharah behind, and try to take a 5v3. Now Redbirds pushing in. You can see they made that swap yet again here, just not working out for him here again.
And again, they lost a fair bit of ultimate charge to it. Granted, Deco did at least get up to an 83% towards the sound barrier, so you will eventually have a powerful card to play, but not this fight, that's for sure.
Have to wonder if, you know, time is going to be something that Redbirds grow increasingly concerned over very quickly here. I mean, obviously we saw what happened in round number 2, now going into this one as well, Night Market. I mean, you've got sound barrier, but you still have to contend with so much that Timeless has built up because they're locking in their compositions early and not giving away any of that value.
And you can't just use that sound barrier willy-nilly either. You still have the EMP to contend with, and I don't think Timeless are done with this fight just because Cal went down. Wub's got an EMP, the sound barrier's popped early. Wub could rip away those shields if he wanted to. Instead, Timeless looked to sustain through the fight, having resurrected the Ana while the sound barrier was up. Redbirds are chasing ghosts on the outside of the point, while Timeless is slowly clawing their way back in. Now with the nano boost being thrown onto Kuffa, they've given themselves a real shot at this. Doom still hasn't been dealt with. And when Wub makes it back from spawn, there's an EMP to turn the tides even further in favor of Timeless. What Redbirds need to look to do is really just pull percentage from this at best, but it's not a winning fight.
Oh, Gig down pretty low. They gotta be sure to keep Deco upright, and they can't do it. Wub still holding on to this EMP, by the way, man.
I respect it from Timeless, to be completely honest. This is a fight that they should be able to win, in theory, without it, but they recognize that they let it go a little too long. They were too slow at cleaning up those staggers, and they're forced to pop the penultimate ability in order to take that win.
Still even more dive-ins. This is just going to give more scoreline, more credit to Redbirds, and also time. Importantly, time to build some of these ultimates. You see Vision going down, Gig going back in as well, but it's criminal. They're still able to get so much value out of this before finally here, Dor. Finally, Timeless do get that flip, but you wonder about the damage dealt. Redbirds now have effectively tied up the scoreline, and they're going to be entering this next fight with both Pulse from Tap as well as the EMP from Vision. And I wonder if Redbirds can find the ability to execute, get onto a target, and take him down. They find Kuffa!
EMP's just onto Kuffa. Doomed looks to be the savior. Redbirds know that there is a looming justice. It rains in, but Doom just simply doesn't have any targets. It's just sneak one in onto Deco. The resurrect as well onto Kuffa. Redbirds didn't cover their tracks. To allow that res through is unforgivable. They may pay the price.
Doomed looking for that cleanup. Kuffa doing the dirty work as well. So close to the nano. Cal may not even need it. Timeless, very much the janitorial service here in overtime, looking to finish off Redbirds.
I mean, this is quite frankly insane. Redbirds, you go over the entire fight plan and skip one step in covering the res, and you allow Timeless back into it. Leave the corpse a moment too soon, and it comes back from the grave. Insane stuff. Big play from Greed.
Crazy as well that the way that that fight opened, I mean, it was kind of a similar situation for them, right? I mean, we saw Kuffa get annihilated off the EMP, but then he got resurrected. It gave them that saving grace, that opportunity that they needed to be able to turn that fight back around, but they just let the exact same thing happen to them right after. And Timeless were just in such a good spot. You see when these fights kind of break down like this, that's where the Pharah is just going to be able to do so much. especially when not really contested, when they're not really trying to deal with Doomed at all. They're trying to win the fight elsewhere. All Timeless has to do is continue to do what was so successful for them already in round 2, which is just disengage, be elusive, live. Timeless were very good at that.
That makes you question if Redbirds, I mean, they don't seem to have an answer to this Pharah. For a large majority of the match, and by that I mean a very large majority of those final 2 maps, Doomed was just running the lobby. It didn't matter if Kuffa went down, it didn't matter if Cal went down. Greed was hitting sick reses onto basically every pick that Redbirds got. Yes, the map pick then goes over to Redbirds, and they've got their options to try and pull that out of the hero pool, but it's going to loom over their heads for the rest of this series, whether it be in Timeless's potential map picks or in a potential map 5, where they're very likely to head to a control map that has at least somewhere where that Pharah can come into play.
Yeah, I think one thing that's scary as well with Timeless specifically is that they've seemed to have found a little bit of consistency early on. I mean, obviously this is, first map down. We'll have to see if this, continues through the rest of the series. But something that I always kind of say is something that you have to be careful with is if a team like Timeless start to find that consistency, start to find that rhythm. And when you're talking about players like Kuffa getting 13 final blows, Doomed getting 20 final blows in that first map, that's the kind of thing that can very much alter the trajectory of the course of the rest of the series here. And we're going to get ready to dive in to that second map for the rest of this one. Hollywood going to be the choice. And this is definitely an interesting one. We've talked a little bit about the mirror possibility. This is where I think we could see. Yeah, this is probably where we could see that come out.
And it's crazy. You wouldn't expect today, coming into a Hollywood map or coming into a map pick in general for Redbirds, for them to try and opt into the Winston matchup, at least up against a lot of stuff that Cuff has been playing recently, because he's been playing it so much. Gig has been playing it a ton, and it was kind of the heart and soul for Redbirds throughout a lot of this season. The first map with all the Reinhardt they were playing, to see a Hollywood map pick is pretty interesting, but it does take the Pharah generally out of the equation. I think it really enables Vision to do a lot of what he was doing. I think Gig has been playing a very admirable Winston at that, but it's not going to be an easy fight if they can find any way to create those picks again, which has been kind of the flavor of the day in terms of the first map, with Vision heading up on the Hanzo for the first portion, followed up by Doomed on the Pharah. Picks were coming out aplenty.
Yeah, I'm curious if that is the direction they want to go. If they want to go the Winston. Obviously, we've seen it flashed by both teams. They have swapped over to the Winston pretty much, I think, predominantly throughout this series, at least so far. But yeah, if it does go into that mirror, this is something that Timeless have shown for a while, and it's something that I imagine Redbirds has been doing more so recently. We did see, of course, Redbirds doing a lot more of that closer to the Pro-Am. So it's not like Redbirds is, untested, unproven on the dive. This is definitely a team that is more than capable on the dive as well. But it's not something that I think just right out of the gate, I would say, oh, it just gives them so much favor because of just how good Timeless is, and more specifically, Kuffa is in the Winston matchup, especially when we see it going toe-to-toe with, other Winstons. There's a couple of players that certainly stand out on that character. Kuffa tends to be one of those.
Yeah, I think the goal of this map pick for Redbirds isn't necessarily to move towards a specific tank composition or to try and take something away in that regard. I think we actually have to look towards the other roles to see how that is, because we do have Winston compositions on either side likely. But what's different about that is how the Winston composition changes, right? Because we've got 2 compositions floating around, one of which often goes with a Somber Tracer, the other of which is going with a Tracer and a hit scan of some kind, Sojourn, Ashe, Hanzo, and the like. Right. Hollywood vastly tends to favor the latter of those, and I think that's what Redbirds are looking to lean into, because that's what enabled them on map number 1, was finding those picks, was having solid DPS play to lay down that damage. It wasn't being offered up by the other side, right? We saw the Sojourn over there, which was of questionable impact on the first map, and I'm not sure that Timeless really is showing us something in the hit scan role that's going to offer up that same pick potential. That's why I think this Hollywood's coming in, and I think it's a really smart pick, because again, you do have to differentiate between the different types of dive compositions that we've been getting lately.
That's a good point, actually. That's a really fantastic point, especially...
You say like you're surprised to hear me say anything, Yerks.
Well, I mean, normally IQ is like in the room temp area, so I gotta commend you when you have these flashes of brilliance, right? When you meet the rest of us at the upper echelons, the peak the peak ranks of Overwatch. You know, I'm talking like gold and above. Of course, before we go further down into this rabbit hole, hashtag OWPTP 2023. Certainly want to hear the conversation that maybe just any conversation that isn't involving us, but do involve us with it, because it might pop up on the screen here if it's good, if we enjoy it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But nonetheless, back into the tirade. Timeless, Redbirds. I think no surprises at least in store just yet, but I think the thing that we just got through a little bit, and I do want to point out, is the fact that we will likely see Vision onto this Hanzo, which, especially when we get into that point B area, if we get there, I think Vision is going to be very tough to deal with for Timeless here.
Yeah, I mean, even over just this weekend, we saw Hanzo take over games on Hollywood time and time again. I think you remember the instance I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Point B could be a nightmare for Timeless. Point A's got some ground to work with. They opt not for that long-range hit scan, though. They don't go for any of the three, sticking on that Sombra, saying, you know what, I don't think we have an answer to Vision, which is very fair. Most people don't have a direct answer to Vision. Taking him down, though, with the tank roll. Certainly will do that. Redbirds continue to play footsies at the door here. Timeless make a big dive into an anti-nade and pay the price.
Oh, that's crazy that they were able to get that kill onto Doom, but with Gig down, Redbirds can't really do all that much here. Seems like they are still going to opt to try to see if they can steal away a little bit more damage, maybe find themselves another pick late into this broken down fight, but that's just not going to be the case. But something to bear in mind, as much as Vision can come alive in a situation like this, even on the Cassie that we see him swap to, Wub especially is going to be a threat for Gig and Geeko, as well as even Ranko to a degree as well. But look to see how Redbirds go for Timeless go for some of these engages, particularly with those hacks and how those follow-ups happen.
There are vulnerable targets. Remember, that Cassie's not as chunky as he was before. Not as easy to tank every. Oh my lord! Thank you, observers. You know what? I'm actually glad I just had it in the kill feed, because I don't think we're allowed to show that on Twitch.
Yeah, that might be illegal. Definitely felt that way. So Timeless, I mean, freely winning a fight. They really didn't need anything.
Oh no, we've got the receiving angle. Oh no! And delivered.
Well, that's what happens, man. Redbirds, I mean, they've got tap, pulse bomb at the ready. Maybe they'll try to go ahead and recreate that.
Yeah, just try it.
Good luck.
Okay, yeah. Good luck. Good fight plan here. It's just triple pulse bomb the enemy team. What could?
Yeah, just triple. Yeah. Quad would be even better. Go for it.
What's EMP'd the likes of this Redbird's backline, and it pays off in a kill on Gig. Should be enough for Timeless to find Perch. Just cost them 2 ultimates, but Redbirds have 4 of their own now to come back and swing at that A point with. Want to be proactive with a stick, and 2 may not be 3, but it's damn close, Yerrickson. It might be enough.
It's both supports as well, so Kuffa just no ability to reset here. It's really just going to fall on Wub and Doom to try to stabilize this for just a little bit of time, maybe buy some time for Timeless, but I can't imagine they're going to have a really solid fight opportunity going into this. See if they want to go for a last-second test. They're going to actually opt not to. And Redbirds take their first cap here of the point. I mean, really off the back of yet another insane pulse play.
I hate that I made fun of you for just like counting on that pulse play and then it happened.
I'm gonna be honest, it was lucky.
How much did you pay Tap? Just tell me.
I can't release the numbers, man.
A little bit of positional jockeying going on as Kuffa eats a boatload of damage. Redbirds actually should gain some space on this. Vision still on the Cassidy though. Once that ultimate comes out, and maybe even prior to it happening, Hanzo swap does seem likely for a B point. For now though, they'll take comfort in their low ground position, just pushing the card until Timeless no longer lets them. Timeless do decide to contest, but they eat a massive anti-nade. Nano Boost comes through before it ends as well. A freebie onto Kalas. Answered swiftly by the likes of Timeless, though, who are using this high ground quite well to cycle cooldowns despite having lost their flex support.
Yeah, one of the things that Redbirds has to find an answer for pretty quickly here, obviously, is going to be something like the EMP, but more importantly, over the course of this round here, they're going to have to deal with Kuffa going and resetting up on high ground, falling back down, and just doing that over and over and over again to the point where they're not able to really get lethal pressure onto Kuffa, and now finally they stave him off, but they lose vision for it.
And the big thing about that is, like, yes, they may have pushed Kuffa off of that high ground and eventually killed him, but the players on that high ground were successfully pushed off and taken out of the fight by Kuffa. They were effectively non-factors for the next 5 to 10 seconds, which was the remaining duration of that fight. Now Redbirds look to stabilize. They have to prop up Primal Rage in order to do so. They're still getting poked away at by Doomed in the meantime, and they don't have an answer to the EMP like you mentioned. This has been Timeless largely in control. Yes, some progress was made by Tap, but it's a consolation prize.
I think Redbirds, though, getting pretty close to both of their support ults here is going to be wildly important. You're going to have the ability to send Gig up to that high ground, going to have that nano boost to just really make that a little bit more potent, on top of the fact that the rally could help them sustain after the EMP comes out, and there it is.
Aggressive EMP forces the nano boost out early, but it goes onto a Cassidy. Pulse bomb again from Doomed. Looks dangerous, but it's a little bit soft. Redbirds backed away into a hallway. Timeless have used their ultimates, have thrown in their fill. Didn't find anything for it, but Redbirds were forced to use every defensive tool available to them. Now we go back to that neutral game on the high ground. Timeless, wait, jockey for position, trying to get the nano boost up, but Cal goes down before the critical ultimate arrives. Part now pushing, Timeless bleeding out. Members have nothing left to contest it. Point B, they will be going the way of Redbirds.
Yeah, just a matter of time here. About a 30-second cap. Time remaining at least 2 minutes now for Redbirds as they gain those extra 90. And they're going to start sending it forward into the final stage of the map. And you still see vision on this Cassidy. Obviously, they are looking to accept those dives and react. Timeless looking to play a little bit more aggressive, play off of those hacks when they come in, get doomed into a position, and have Cal safe in the backline, protected by Greed as well. That is the objective. That is the goal. Utilize those purples as well from that range and just ante anybody who becomes a target for Timeless until finally they can find a kill. Redbirds just saying, you know what, we can accept that. We're just gonna blow Kuffa up as soon as he comes in. That's our goal.
Well, their goal is right now to look for vision in the back line. Kuffa's got a great dive with that nano boost from earlier, but the cart's still moving forward. One person to contest it right about now, but Redbirds aren't done with their food quite yet. They don't lose one person earlier on, and you said throw all that damage back at Kuffa. Redbirds get a clean disengage following all that, and are now back up to 5.
See Pulse Bomb held onto by Doom. That EMP is back up for Wub as well, and there it is.
I mean, with the damage that's being done during these fights, yeah, I would expect it to be back up. They are never ending, it seems. Timeless finally would have stopped the things, but it's been pretty big in doing so.
You can see Timeless, I mean, basically just winning fights off of the insane generation of the EMPs coming out from Wub right now, but you're gonna need to find that consistency that we saw from them in round 2 and round 3 of map number 1 if they want to close out this defense without letting Redbirds go the distance. Redbirds setting up, they have 15 seconds, so it's now glory or nothing here for Redbirds.
And it's looking more like nothing. Renko down, Cuff into the back line. Okay. Vision's able to get a rough trade back, but I don't think this one's looking too hot for Redbirds, who simply just don't have the beef to really get a good touch in here. The rally does get them a little bit more meat on their bones. Almost unrelenting, though, in their assault. Continue to dive this cart time after time after time. Again, Kuffa goes down, but again, that health bar will be back before you know it because of the closer spawns. You haven't quite seen the end of the doorway yet.
And they also just can't pressure that backline at all. Redbirds are just having to play this front to back, and you see Timeless just juggling those responsibilities of taking that pressure very, very well until eventually they're going to throw out that nano boost. They're going to have the rally available. They could turn this fight even with something like an EMP, which Wub is close to again.
Yeah, it seemed like it's forever away, but with how long these fights have been going, I can't imagine the damage stats that Gig is just eating for breakfast. Kuffa doing the same exact thing, but again, his spawn's a lot closer. That death is a lot less punishable than Gig's would be should it come out. Now with an EMP up, they're just waiting for Cal and Kuffa to come back while the rally buys time for Timeless. They rally the troops. Cal swapping over to a Kiriko so they can teleport out that a little bit faster. Doom going down might be huge. They're now going to be lacking an EMP follow-up massively. Redbirds actually survived the entire ultimate from Wub. They've got a real shot at this. The nano boost onto Gig now means that it's so hard to contest that cart for the backline. The sports, namely in Cal and Greed, are forced to step forward into the Tesla cannon, and they can't take the pressure.
Oh man, Wub has to find his way into the backline, but instead he finds a sleep dart. He dies. Redbirds, they go the distance. Oh man, I mean, Timeless looked like they were the team that was going to be able to shut out their opposition, but instead, Redbirds somehow found a way to just last long enough until finally they got all of their respawns back and were able to turn that fight back around. That is incredible that they were able to pull that off.
And that pulls me to what I want to really highlight is the different strategy. We talked about Timeless cycling their cooldowns so well. Yes, Kuffa dropping from the high ground and then jumping back up and then rotating his cooldowns again. But all in the meanwhile, Redbirds were making progress with the cart inch by inch by inch over that entire map. Redbirds won 3 fights, and they got 3 points capped. I think they lost probably twice as many as they won. But look at this. During this whole losing fight, the one that they eventually turned around with, like, God knows what, they were making progress. They were not winning in that time, but the entire fight, the cart continued to progress forward due to Timeless's propensity for wanting to go off of cooldown management rather than just kind of sending bodies forward and slowly pushing like the likes of Redbirds were. And that strategy, yes, it's advantageous if you can find the win, if you can win that battle of attrition, but if it just continues to go on forever, Redbirds are the ones collecting the returns on that.
Now Timeless in a position on a map where, I mean, I would imagine Timeless feel pretty confident on a map like this, given the nature of, you know, their histories, their backgrounds, especially with the heroes that they typically play. But now in this situation where you see Redbirds cap, they obviously know that they have to match it or ideally do even better. And you can see Vision actually going onto the Ashe, so we aren't going to be seeing that straight mirror that we sort of expected, but Ashe is just so good defensively on this map. It just applies so much pressure, still has some pick potential. Fortunately for Redbirds, they are taking a ton of damage already.
And while having taken down Deco main, it's extremely hard to recontest. We gotta figure out how to do it though. Setup dive from Giga actually onto the opposing high ground leaves the backline quite vulnerable without their tank in the way. Timeless happy to oblige and collapsing onto that far back corner and clean their hands likely of an A point here. Should Kuffa be able to finish off 1 or 2 more health bars.
They still have to be careful though, because Vision kind of worked his way around to the backside and is still able to do some damage out there, and they still didn't clean up. Finally they get the job done. Timeless should be able to cap them. There you go, but now sending it forward. I mean, really wasting no time at all, and you saw on defense how much Timeless really valued this high ground. Well, guess what? They're going to do the exact same thing here on the attack as well. Kuffa just hanging out. You see that 5:15 time bank that they have acquired.
Yeah, all due to those late staggers, they get such a beautiful position, and it's even more impactful when you bring those long-range snipers in play like the Ashe, like the Hanzo. The one which controls the high ground is going to get a lot more work done. We already see the poke paying off on a Gig, forcing out a bubble. Kuffa playing bouncer to this high ground, not letting anybody up. Breeze getting in on the party as well, hitting a whip shot to donk people on down. Sleep on the Kuffa, but I don't think there's too much follow-up that he should be going down in a situation like this, especially with Primal available. Does give Gig a moment to try and counter dive onto the likes of Timeless, but nothing's really stopping this cart right now, and Tap can't afford to contest, especially with an arrow lobotomizing him.
Yeah, Wub was very prepared for that one. And now Timeless coming up on almost every single possible ult that they could, you know, have at this stage here. Getting very, very close now. See the replay of just, I mean, Wub just completely prepared for that, as he should be in those situations in a 2v1 like that. But even Redbirds now coming out from their respawn, they just have to take so much damage, have to take so much pressure. You see those purples coming out as well.
Immediately anti the dragon to follow up. Timeless have tools aplenty. Redbirds have thrown everything out. I mean, this is the kitchen sink that's been used between the Primal, the Rally. Got a Bob to follow this. Timeless. No answer to the 6th man from Redbirds. But unfortunately, it's reduced down to 5 again. This off angle so deadly as well. Look at how much work Wub can get done with this high ground. Just full reign over the entire battlefield. Doomed gets punished for a slight overextension here, but Timeless positionally are in charge. Look at this! 3 members just huddled in the corner for Redbirds. They have so little space to work with, and watch this. Wub could potentially take their heads off one at a time if he really wanted to. Bubble splits away those 3 players on such a fragile angle. Redbirds, it is a miracle they've survived this long in the fight, given what little position they actually had to work within it, but they have fought their way out and now look to push their way through.
Yeah, just looking to deny angles for Wub, or from Wub rather. That's exactly what they're doing here. Still, Wub looking for those picks, and it really is just going to take one arrow to completely turn this fight on its head, or maybe an ult to come in, but, I mean, just as I say that, the support's just getting obliterated from Timeless.
It's still not over. Whenever there's a Hanzo on the field, there's always an opening. Eco down, high ground claimed by Vision, critically. That will have to be contested by Kuffa and Wub if they want any chance of this. Wub does exactly that. Takes the off angle on the other side. Throws arrows down the lane at everyone on Redbirds and finishes off a very clean fight. To be honest, that was less than a practice in mechanics and more one of positioning, a game of chess being played here on Hollywood B.
On both sides, too. Redbird's looking to deny. Wub looking for the opportunity, finally gets it. Big kill onto Renko to set up for Kuffa, and now another one onto Vision. And that's really who you're looking for in situations like this as well, because who's going to be able to turn this fight around other than a player like Vision who just comes alive in the final moments? Well, if he's dead, he can't do that.
Call him up. They need... Oh, now's the time. Come on, Vision. Do the swap. Vision, do the swap. I know you have a Bob coming up, but do it. It's one more death and we see it. The second that Bob's out, I guarantee you it's a Hanzo, bro. Alright, let's see. Some dives in. Pretty far by Tap and Gig. Something we haven't seen much of from them. Nevertheless, quite successful in taking down Cal. Timeless now, stuck with a rally in their hands, wondering what quite to do with it. You can't go for a hard push because the rally was going to wear off too soon. You do try to make something of it. To answer with Nano, and I actually think that's something that Timeless are pretty happy with. The fact that they've managed to trade out a rally that wouldn't have gotten value anyways, pretty good.
I think pulling that is big time because that also exposes Gig as well. I mean, you see the rally still at the ready for Deco. That can be a major factor in this next fight, but I think the thing that Redbirds need to be considering is just how can we keep Gig alive? How can we keep him pressuring without going down? Because Timeless are going to look to focus him in this next fight. That's going to be the person that contests, so that's the player that needs to die.
Much of the focus in general has been the way of Gig. It remains to be. Taking him down swiftly. Timeless now look to move forward. They've got to break this choke point. 5 members need to push through it confidently, and that's exactly what happened. All of them look to break it. Now a nano boost from Cal should be the final thing. The last straw to break the camel's back. Egan Vision, though, teaming up to put in some real serious damage. A Bob as well offers up just enough pressure to dissuade Timeless from a C-cap. 138 on the clock now, and things are looking dire for both sides somehow. Redbirds with closer spawn, Timeless with kills, but Gig falls, and that may be the penultimate one that they needed. Green box of victory close. Too close, in fact, for Redbirds to actually get a solid contest in. A fantastic push by Timeless, and again, some very positional Overwatch being played by either side throughout the entirety of the push.
And not only that, but also just some really effective juggling that came out from Cuff. I mean, 2 points were won off the back of some really solid primal juggles. And Timeless, explosive at the start. Pretty much the same here to close out their initial push. But remember, Redbirds didn't cap with time, so they don't get another opportunity to, go in and have another attack. Timeless, on the other hand, have, I believe, 84 seconds, if I remember correctly, to be able to get one singular tick. And if they can do that, they'll go up 2-0 in the series.
It's been a masterclass in Timeless so far, across multiple competitions, no less. In the series, you can see that these two teams have put those 2 weeks to very, very good use. And honestly, as much as we're talking about Kuffa in these primals, I want to give some credit to Gig. Dude, Gig lived so long in so many of those instances. On B, was cut off sightline-wise from his heals a bajillion times by Kuffa's bubbles, and was just perfectly managing his own health bar, which is way easier said than done when all the forces of Timeless are being thrown at you.
I think the crazy thing is, too, is that we're talking a lot about how Redbirds have a focus on Kuffa in some of these situations, but in fact, Gig is receiving more pressure than anyone. I mean,
absolutely.
By a considerable amount. I believe it's like somewhere around the ballpark of 1,500 damage taken, and that's not because Gig is just taking more damage at his fault. It's because there is a considerable amount of focus coming in from players like Wub, Doomed, even Cal throwing in those nades that you see attached to Gig there on his nameplate as well.
In the second Gig oversteps, he has to be so careful because you can't leave that backline open or Timeless will punish you for that as well. It is such a delicate balance, this defense, and it already begins to crumble at the foundation. Kuffa resetting after having assassinated one player of Redbirds, hops back up to the rafters before swooping down yet again for another bite at the backline.
Oh, they got to keep Deco alive. Deco goes down. Gig probably soon to follow unless Ranko can somehow find some heroics.
I mean, Ranko lived for far longer than any had a right to, but still eventually topples over. Timeless will see the end of a Hollywood and a 2-0 lead in the series.
Just a little cleanup yet again for Timeless. Feels like we've seen that a few times already in this series, and we often see a conversation, a narrative, a plot line, if you will, about the first map jitters that always seem to happen for Redbirds. They lose the first map, but don't worry, they come back. It's always a 3-1. No worries, no drama. That is just simply not the case here. It feels very much like Timeless are in control, and a lot of these fights, even getting away from control, the map type specific, we're still seeing kind of the same situation here.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because the map was at the end of the day close, but when you look at it, it's like watching a video of a boat towing a float, right? Like everyone's just holding on for dear life in the back there, and they're dealing with whatever Timeless just manages to throw at them, and they're doing it admirably. Like we said, they're juggling aggression. Gig's playing very well, living quite a long time. Positionally, it was a masterclass by both sides, but time and time again, the coin came up heads for Timeless, which means that there's only one shot left for Redbirds, and we'll find out if they can take it after this break.
Has your music lately been sounding off? Melodies sounding out of tune? Shows ending without a swoon? Missing your beats? With no way to improve your feats? Well, just you wait until you get your hands on the brand new Overwatch Contenders Lucio skin! Obtaining such a masterpiece is as easy as connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. After that, watching Overwatch Contenders will contribute to your drops progress, letting you claim each outstanding offer, including the luminescent and lustrous lime locks of Lucio, equipped with the latest and greatest hardware and software. The Overwatch Contenders Lucio skin will be sure to heighten your harmonies and fire up your fans.
You know, Hurix, I've always wanted to be a weatherman, and today I get to play that one out and bring good news at the same time, bringing your drops forecast. Most important thing about this is that you're subscribed and or following this channel and making sure that you get all of your drops in before that critical date at the end, where that summer series brought to you by Macca's is played on June 7th. That's your last opportunity to get, I believe, Lucio and Reaper, I think, is on the table as well. I don't know. I got him a long time ago, which you guys should have as well. But if you didn't, like we said, you can always turn in your homework a little bit late. For now, though, you've got a match to get back to.
Yeah, and this match has definitely heated things up. I know we talked a bit about how we flipped our sleep schedules around a couple of times this weekend, and now we're getting into the heat of things. And boy, did we ever. Timeless coming out 2-0, swinging hard against Redbirds, a team that, I mean, constantly we see making it into the deep ends of all of our tournaments for the last, 2 years, maybe 3 years at this stage. This time around, though, Timeless looked to be, aiming to send them to the bottom side of the bracket pretty early. And we do see Redbirds find their way back up through the bottom side sometimes, but this is an early outing if Timeless can manage it.
Yeah, look, if any team's used to doing some lower bracket stuff, it's Redbirds, but nevertheless, Timeless are, I think, are really surprising as well. We expected this to be close, and it has been close in a lot of ways, but looking at the past, looking at just the momentum that Redbirds were building, the fact that Tap was being integrated into the roster and everything, it really seemed like it was building towards them having the slight advantage in the match. The recent matches against O3 as well, where each of them kind of had different results. Redbirds that little bit better. It was like, you were thinking Redbirds edged it out, but man, Timeless across multiple comps and multiple matchups with those compositions as well have been not only in charge, but also the biggest thing for me is that they're clearly able to shift win conditions across those compositions, across those different matchups, and they're doing it basically on a dime.
And this is another opportunity for us to see even more of the depth of that. Rialto, very likely to see some roster swaps, actually, that are going to lead to compositional swaps. We're going to see more of that diversity and composition. Timeless, they're up first. They're going to be throwing Clear in, which, it should be no surprise where we're going here with this pick, that we're likely to see things like Diva, basically any traditional off-tank kind of pick, you're going to be seeing that. And the big reason why is because they need to combat something very specific that Redbirds have actually been leveraging a lot recently, which you did make mention of, is Moving Fish coming in and playing those off-tank heroes and playing so well at them. You've seen things like Sigma, you've seen things like Diva, and they are so profoundly talented. And Redbirds just play around Moving Fish, very well as well. Not just this being like a gig show or anything like that. Redbirds are a very strong collective, especially around Moving Fish.
Well, that's what it's really felt like. The recent run of form for Moving Fish really just started the heater all the way back in Pro-Am and has not ever stopped since. Feels like it did come from Redbirds centralizing more around both tanks as opposed to one of them, right? And it's that integration that's made Moving Fish look so good, and no more important of a place is it going to be than on Rialto, where there's some pretty unique strategies run in terms of the Diva, where you're looking to enable double flex support often, as well as maybe even a sniper being thrown into the mix. Really, the world's your oyster in terms of long-range opportunities here. As long as your Diva is capable of peeling for it, the better your Diva is, the more you can kind of greed for that kind of stuff. And when you've got a player like Moving Fish, I expect the whole chalupa from Redbirds.
Yeah, and while we do expect to see the Diva, I do want to mention just really quickly the fact that Redbirds have, on occasion, thrown out the Sigma on this map as well, which is very interesting just because of, again, how strong you typically see the Diva be on this map in this meta. But it is something to just make note of for right now, just because it is kind of always a potential possibility, albeit a lesser one than something like the Diva, which we, again, talked about. It's just so strong on this map, especially at enabling those corner holds, enabling the Anas, and defending the Anas as well. It just makes the map certainly a little bit slower tempo, but not less lethal or less exciting, right?
Oh, and on top of that, they've locked in a sniper, but not the one we usually see on this map. We're used to getting Widowmakers on point A, both defense and attack here. Wub gives us a Widow, but Vision locks in a signature Hanzo, which, wow, extremely powerful and potent in the hands of Vision. Is that what you're used to seeing on this map?
Yeah, it's definitely not, but at the end of the day, it is Vision, so
Yeah, I'm not complaining.
Very surprising, right? Because if you're talking about Vision, obviously he can play the Widow, no problem, but if you want to see a player just really have an impact, make a difference, you're going to be seeing Vision probably on the Hanzo more often than not. And also, Hanzo still is a very strong character in isolation as well. So it's not a crazy pick to see Redbirds go for this variation.
Now we kind of point out the win conditions of this position for Redbirds, right? There are kind of 3 lanes that you can look to push down, and they need to balance those appropriately such that Clear can't effectively peel for all of them. Now as they look to dive up to that high ground, headshot is landed, but Clear will be here to defend it, at least in majority from the flank. Going for a more aggressive defense, allowing the supports that could have gone down. Cal and Greed very well could have died, but Clear was behind the Redbirds looking to trade those out and did so very well.
Yeah, really good job from Timeless just to kind of make sure that they keep everything that they needed insulated to be exactly that, insulated. Well protected in the backline. Wub finding that early pick onto Renko specifically means that Redbirds just simply didn't have the capacity to take that fight long term the way that Timeless were able to. You're going to have to see Redbirds make some adjustments on their approach just to try to get into Wub and deny those early sightlines before these fights break out.
Same rotation, but a huge anti-nade onto Redbirds. They eat it, though. I think the follow-up damage might just be too much. It was that initial sleep from Cal onto, I believe, Moving Fish that allowed that anti-nade through, and from there, it's all come up gravy for Timeless.
Yeah, again, Timeless going for that cleanup, but I'll tell you, Redbirds, I mean, obviously half their time bank is gone, but they really need, I mean, we've seen this time and time again from a lot of teams on this attacking phase. You basically have to get your ultimates. You have to pull resources away from the defensive side before you can finally round those corners and actually start progressing the momentum in your favor and pushing the payload actually in the direction you want it to be going in. And Timeless just are not letting Redbirds through.
Oh, all of it has come down to this lane. You can push through main. You can choose to split your players, both on coast and through main. Redbirds vastly preferring to send them all through in an insulated fashion, try to defend that backline as best they can. Both teams offer up a nano. Echo holding is in his back pocket, but the rallies keep the teams alive for now. Bomb thrown out, doesn't really connect onto Vision, though the remake still is fortunately dodged by the Hanzo. Timeless's backline has been connected with, though, and Redbirds, the whole point of that initial push is proven very true.
And you see Redbirds finally, once they get their ultimates, okay, now you can round that corner, now you can overpower a team like Timeless by utilizing those resources effectively. Unfortunately for them, I mean, it took them, I mean, what, two and a half minutes to finally build those options up, and now they're finally pushing the cart into the main area of point A, and they still have to win another fight.
Easier said than done. Timeless as well. I like the position that they're taking this fight. A lot of teams will let this go, play underneath that choke. But now Timeless effectively gets to take one more fight. Their composition's fast enough. Should they lose this, they could get back. So they're trying to buy as much time off this clock, and they do. 30 seconds are gone, and the fight hasn't been taken by Redbirds. Instead, they try to jockey for position up on the high ground, and they get it, but what are they going to do with it? You've done here, set up Renko and Vision on the high ground. They're the two that you're looking to pay out, and Vision delivers. Wub falls to the high ground advantage. Redbirds garnered earlier, and the positional masterclass continues for the team in white. Moving Fish, though, dropped low, needs to stay up in order to touch this guard. If they go down, it may collapse the entire push for Redbirds. Fortunately for them, though, Renko's doing his job quite well, keeps the tank up, pushes towards the final fight.
Opportunity here still for Timeless. Doomed stayed alive, got away into the backline, now can go for a contest, has Pulse Bomb as well. If they want to go for something slippery, sneaky here, this is their opportunity, but Moving Fish is there to eat it up.
And Doomed greeds for the Pulse Bomb, gets it eaten, and stepped off the cart for too long in the meantime. Triple whammy there for the Tracer player of unfortunate mistakes. It's still silver linings, though, for Redbirds as they've got ultimates up, but a whole lot of space to cover and not really much time to do it here.
Not too much. 2 minutes is a lot of room to fill.
That's be a hell of a stagger.
This does not bode well at all for Redbirds, who were just already kind of playing from behind at this stage. Though, You do like where their economy's at. That is certainly going to help them push through Timeless. They need to find some of that value pretty soon here, because even if they are successful in this fight, if they find that value, they still have to win 2, maybe even 3 more fights in order to find the end of point B.
Redbirds again are just, they're so reactive within this match. They've been unwilling to make the first move, and it's very difficult with the composition they're running to just make that first move at will. Right, a lot of it's reliant on just buying time for Vision to find a pick, but that hasn't really proven true, and they haven't been able to buy enough time at that for that to come to fruition. Now, as they look to move aggressively for the first time in God knows how long, they're immediately punished for it. Pulling out the bomb from Moving Fish. Fortunately, they're able to find Cal on the back end of this, but again, it took all that effort just for 1 kill onto Timeless, and Timeless aren't done with this fight yet. They're going to throw in a rally and try and go for a second time around. That Brig does not look particularly well for wear.
Oh yeah, it's going to be ripped down, taken out. And on top of everything too, even when we saw, again, all those resources build up that Redbirds needed to find value with, I mean, things like the Dragon Strike getting eaten by Clear there. Just very unfortunate for, yes. That's exactly it. And now you can see Redbirds making a swap here. Vision over to that Widow that you were hoping for initially. Now is the time, it seems, for Vision to go for one of those desperation swaps, and it's already pulling out.
Team's muted. Music is on, Yurix. Vision's starting. Doom can trade it back, though. Timeless have plenty of clutch in their jeans as well. Wub, one more. A second. Anything Vision can do, Wub can do. Not that much better, but still a little bit better. Hold for Timeless. Nicely done, man. Ripping that time off on A and making B a painful escapade. Redbirds are struggling to take fights on their own terms. They're trying to sit and play reactive like they did on the first map, right? Pull resources away from Timeless, but I mean, it's just not happening any day of the week. Timeless are so measured in their aggression. When they need to be proactive, they're aggressive and playing forward. And when Redbirds need to make a move, Timeless sit back and wait patiently. It's beautiful play.
And one of the things I find interesting as well is that while I absolutely agree, and I think it makes a lot of sense when we talk about how, you know, Redbird's not really playing like their way, but the funny thing is that in a way they are. I mean, their objective is to react, is to go for these counter dives, is to be able to, you know, pull Timeless out of their positions, pull that diva out of position so that they can actually act afterwards, or maybe even find some mistake in rotation where we saw Redbirds pulling Timeless into that backside, that coastline, and then they won the fight there. I mean, that is their objective. Unfortunately for them, it just keeps biting them in the butt because they are losing time, they're losing value in their resources, and Timeless are being, I mean, they're very happy to be aggressive in those situations and try to see if they can get little picks like through post bombs, through Wub, whatever it may be. So Redbirds have to be able to make some kind of adjustment, and you can see already with Vision onto the Widow here, they can at least match that way.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that you bring it up though, right? They're looking for a mistake in rotation. They're looking for a mistake from Timeless, but Timeless aren't really in the business of making mistakes right now. They're playing so clean. As we jockey for high ground position, Moving Fish and Tide. Here uses this as a moment to stab forward. You don't see the same focus on the side lanes from Timeless that we have from Redbirds quite yet, but they will make the rotation eventually. Keeping the Tracer in main, opting to go for a little bit more of a split, though they do regroup to all push up that staircase eventually. Ranko slept though. A dangerous place to be! Timeless overcommit towards the sleeping Ana though! They weren't ready for the Vision waiting in the sides.
This is a lot more like what we expected from Redbirds when you do see those, okay, there's a moment here where we know how to react to this. Timeless are going to step forward, they're going to want to make a play onto Ranko, and they're able to just kind of bisect Timeless and get those easy kills and end the fight, close it out quickly. The thing is here is that we are going to be seeing Timeless with a little bit more of an emphasis here on pushing that payload around the corner. So if at some point they win one of these fights, they might be a little bit farther forward and might not have to take as many fights.
A lot of damage onto Ranko, who's eventually finished off by the likes of Wub. A second set of 2 offered up. After finishing this second point on their defense. Club just continues with this streak of perfection. Anti-nade even thrown in for good measure here by Cal. Now high ground garnered. Positionally a mess for Redbirds, who are going to have to retake all this space.
Not only that, but they're going to be pushing into Wub sight lines, which is not going to be good for Vision and not really anybody else for that matter, because Timeless is just going to be able to have Wub taking pot shots for most of this.
Was happy to oblige. Wub has been dangerous. Zico dropped down to half. Doom smells blood in the water. Takes down the support. It will be traded, but remember, cart presence is a must for Redbirds at this point. Diva Nano wears off. Vision sights go through those walls. Timeless unwilling to peek. Wub's gonna pop the site second alongside a rally, alongside a bomb. They are going all in this moment to try and get this cap through Timeless, and it works out beautifully. The pulse bomb finally connects after a whole bank of ultimates has been spent, but it was worth it. It pays off. A final kill on Tarenko means that Timeless get high ground control as well. And with that yellow box of victory not being too far into B, this is massive.
Not only that, but oh, okay. That potentially saves Redbirds here, because they could have lost a ton of momentum to be able to return into this fight and get something early on. But Timeless are still, with those later kills that they did get, they are going to be able to get this thing dangerously close to the end here, and Redbirds are going to have to make a play, and that does not look good for them, because they are going to have to make sure that they play more aggressive, and Timeless are going to be ready for that. They're going to be waiting for that opportunity.
Timeless looks so patient in this moment as well. Just jockeying for position. Like you said, they know Redbirds are the ones who have to make the move, and they simply respond to it. Pressure begins to mount on Moving Fish, though, dropping down to half HP. Eco down as well. Redbirds bleeding out, but they have resources up first. Their ultimates arrive. They pop double support ultimates at the same time and throw a pulse bomb on to clear. It's 3 ultimates invested from the team in white, but it pays off in a win. Now 2:30 on the clock, and Timeless are going to have the next round.
Yeah, I think Timeless are so happy with that. Yes, they do invest the self-destruct from Clear. If I'm not mistaken, actually, no, he didn't even pop that. So that was
nothing.
Very
they spent
smart.
nothing for 3.
Literally nothing at all for the 3 by Redbirds. And I mean, at this point, the nearest thing is going to be the Infrasight, which isn't exactly a fight-winning ultimate for Redbirds. And Timeless, I think they are just so happy with the situation now. I mean, 2 minutes and they have all of this, and Redbirds have to contest. Have to.
They must step in. Approach their deaths. They can see their gravestones in the distance. They must walk with steady hearts. A smooth 8. Up to the plate comes Moving Fish. Into a rally first. A Nano. Timeless. Again, their assault. Backline dropped down to half. Deco, the first to fall, feeling the weight of Timeless collapse upon him. The rest of the members cascade as we cross the green box of victory. Greed can stay alive for but a moment more on the cart before the map comes to a close. A 3-0 win for Timeless is a stark message being sent to the top of the bracket that they are not here to play around.
I mean, I can't even believe it, because here's the thing. Redbirds, I don't think, played especially bad. I mean, this is a fantastic team that Timeless has just trounced. I mean, a 3-0 finish over a team like Redbirds, who, let's just be honest, I don't think anybody would be surprised to see Redbirds go the distance on the lower side of the bracket and find themselves at least in top 4. I don't think anybody would find that at all a surprise. But Timeless look fantastic right now. I mean, we talked about it at the beginning, that they kind of came into this as gatekeepers. They're looking to establish themselves as something more. This is the first step in the process.
And look, I know we have Wisp, we have Saints floating around right now, but as far as matches that we've had, and we watched that match between Wisp and Saints on stream, I feel like this Timeless vs. Redbirds match was some of just the cleanest Overwatch that we have seen in this season, almost hands down. So much of it came down to just minor positional plays between either side. Yes, there were picks given away, but man, it really felt like some top tier stuff. And to see Timeless come out so starkly, despite the quality of play being pretty high from both sides, is really nice.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to seeing more from Timeless because I know, we've been waiting on this from Timeless for a little while now. I mean, we've seen them have some pretty solid finishes in tournaments, but we haven't seen them be that dominant team that seems like they're very capable of going to a grand final and potentially winning it as well. It's like they've had teams that have the capacity, have the potential, but then they fall a little bit shorter of that potential. Perhaps this is the version of Timeless that could go the distance.
I mean, they've iterated on the roster a good few times, but it's only a matter of time before one of them has to work, right? Like, this 3-0 really does solidify that they've been putting the work in over the past 2 weeks. And it shows, and I think the scary part about it is, God, how many compositions it's been over. I think even looking at the top of the bracket, right? Like, Wisp has found a lot of their value off of playing the Winston, off of playing the composition that was kind of the best 2 weeks ago. But now that the meta's really opened up and Timeless seemed to have a grasp on pretty much all of it, I'd be scared.
Yeah, big time. I'll tell you what, though, that's one game down. We're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, it'll be an interview with Clear, kind of the new kid on the block for this squad. We're definitely excited to get a chat in with him. You don't want to miss it. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Tracer has quickly become one of the most popular heroes in high-level Overwatch 2. It takes insane mechanical skill, cerebral game sense, and ice in your veins to make impact plays with her, but these players make it look easy.
Maimon and Vestal are just playing off of each other perfectly.
W Maimon, by the way, found one who built that Transcendent. And a pulse bomb connects onto both Fuki and Turkey. W Maimon on this map, on Havana, truly has been next level.
And just as their eyes glance away, a pulse bomb connects to the back of their head. Kanail and Cookie hit the dirt. Rocket's trying. Rocket could be a hero in moments like these. Rocket saved the day again! Rocket's gonna chase him out too. Oh, and he Tracer gaps him. Yeah, Rocket's that guy right now. And welcome back, everybody. Like we said, we got a promised interview with Clear, who, apologies for the delay, is coming in on a bit of latency, I hear?
Yeah, the Japan MS isn't the best, but I'm making it work, and it was really fun to play in Japan. It was interesting, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely made it work. I mean, stats alone showed that you shined, and I gotta say, just before we kind of dive into the meat and potatoes of everything, is there something a little bit special about, repping Boise State and constantly seeing Redbirds across the aisle and having to compete? Now you're with Timeless and you're getting a big win over them here in the first round of Contenders. Does this mean something a little different for you in particular, or?
Yeah, I mean, whenever I play against the collegiate Contenders teams in Contenders, I'm always trying to beat them because, they're obviously the big dogs in the collegiate scene, so it's good to be able to take them out when I can. And, obviously shout out to Boise. We're looking to beat them as well in collegiate sometime soon, so hopefully I can do that as well.
I mean, if you keep playing like this run of form, I'm expecting big things. I mean, that being said, not just because they're a collegiate team, I imagine this felt pretty good just given the seeding. Everything was pointing towards this being one of the closest matches we have seen, whether it be the statistics, whether it be the maps, whether it be the seeds. Everything was about as dead on as it gets between you two. And then y'all come out and, I mean, just wipe the floor. It was in charge the entire series. And Redbirds, I don't think we're playing particularly awful. You guys just seem to have pulled out a whole new gear after these last 2 weeks. What's up with that?
We've definitely been practicing a lot, and like you said, I guess especially against Redbirds, we traditionally have some map 5 barn burners, so it felt really, really good to finally be able to, close one out pretty quickly against them. But yeah, we've been practicing pretty hard, I've been boot camping in Japan. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, overall, we've been working really hard towards winning some games, and we hope to continue winning games, so we'll try our best.
Now, obviously, with you guys kind of, practicing hard, like you say, is the impression still kind of the same that, in terms of everybody with where they finished in the groups, where you saw teams like Wisps and Saints kind of finish at the top, is your impression of, where everybody stands kind of still similar there? Do you think the 2 weeks really made a massive difference in terms of where teams kind of fall now in the power rankings?
I definitely think this contender season is really, really interesting, right? Because, pretty much every contender season, I feel like before this, there was like one clear favorite. Like everyone's like, oh yeah, that's the best team. But in this contenders, I honestly feel like if like a team shows up and plays their A game, they could beat any team in the tournament. So I think that's like super fun and interesting from this tournament in particular. So I think like any team on any given day can pull out a W.
All 8, you're saying? Like every team? Wow, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the quality there. When the bottom teams coming in are, like Hip, Afterlife, O3 Splash is having some pretty big matches, like, yeah, I would say this is definitely one of the most contended seasons that we've kind of had in contenders, and no pun intended there. But that sets you guys kind of on an equal footing. I think you guys deserve more credit than just being one of the 8 teams that has a chance, because after the performance that we saw, we really got to start talking about you in a different light. Up next, there's a potential match against either Wisp or Afterlife. Who do you want a piece of it? How do you feel about your odds in that matchup?
I feel like if we show up like we did today, I also can play better. So if I play a bit better and everyone keeps like playing really well,
it gets better than doubling Moving Fish's damage. It gets better.
Stay tuned. But I would definitely like to play Afterlife because I have a lot of friends on that team, and I think they also want to play us because they want to beat me. So I also want to beat them. So fun little rivalry there.
So you already get the big rivalry win, the personal, I would say, with Redbirds, and then you're just looking for Afterlife after. That would be cool to see. Definitely excited to see if that comes out. But I'll tell you what, obviously a big win for you guys here today. You guys get to move forward. You have that opportunity potentially to see Afterlife, or even if it's not them, it's still a fantastic opponent that you get to go up against in Wisps, I believe. So hopefully we'll see something continue to be good for you there, because obviously this is a fantastic start for you guys. Big congratulations, man.
Thank you. I'm very excited to keep continuing on and hope to pull out some W's.
All right, later, Clear. Appreciate you popping in, as always. For now, though, for you guys, that means that we've got another match coming up. Oh, Yurks. That went a little quicker than I think either of us anticipated. I was expecting the map 5 barn burner. Even Clear said he was expecting a map 5 barn burner, and then that happened. I think the peaks of this Timeless team really are, I would say, yet to be seen, but I feel he's saying it gets better than that. Somehow that was one of the best performances we've seen in a fat minute. If they can keep that consistent, this team's going some places. Like we said, though, we got another match coming up, and we're going to throw that to you in just a bit. So stay tuned. Keep your eyes glued to your screens and your butts firmly planted in your seats. We'll be right back.
Has your music lately been sounding off? Melodies sounding out of tune? Shows ending without a swoon? Missing your beats? With no way to improve your feats? Well, just you wait until you get your hands on the brand new Overwatch Contenders Lucio skin. Obtaining such a masterpiece is as easy as connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. After that, watching Overwatch Contenders will contribute to your drops progress, letting you claim each outstanding offer, including the luminescent and lustrous lime locks of Lucio, equipped with the latest and greatest hardware and software. The Overwatch Contenders Lucio skin will be sure to heighten your harmonies and fire up your fans.